Yes, what's going on? My name's Kai, and this is the ultimate noob guide to chess. Welcome to Kai Life. Now, you're here because you're a chess noob and you have some intrigue or interest in learning how the frick chess works. I'm here because I'm not a chess noob and I like to think I can further your interest and intrigue with a simple, engaging explanation. But no, we're not the same. But seriously, there are two things that stop people wanting to entertain the idea of playing chess: feeling overwhelmed and the natural phenomenon of having little interest in doing something that you're just not very good at. So this video is about making you feel less overwhelmed and more able to start playing what is an incredibly fun game. Let's jump in. Beautiful. All right, that's what we want. Here is our chessboard. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, chess is an incredibly difficult game to master, but it is not an incredibly difficult game just to play and to understand. So bear with me, we're going to get the basics covered. Okay, so you've got a board. It's got 64 squares on and 32 pieces. Each person has 16 pieces, and 8 of your 16 pieces, called the pawns, are exactly the same as each other. And then you have 2 rooks, which are the castle-looking pieces. You've got 2 knights, which are the elegant-looking horses. You've got 2 bishops, 1 queen, and 1 king. Now listen, the king and the queen are the most important, and one of them is an absolute badass at playing chess, and the other one is shockingly useless. You must do everything you can to protect the shockingly useless one. Now, obviously, lots and lots of people play chess online, on chess.com or Lichess, but it's also actually possible to touch some grass and play this game in real life, would you believe? And if you do, you'll need to know where the pieces go on the board. So before we get stuck in with the simple part of knowing how to move your pieces, let's look at where you put them at the start if you're playing OTB, which stands for over the board, meaning in real life with another human and avoiding eye contact and all those kind of things. So first of all, you want to check that you've got a dark square in your bottom left corner and a light square on the bottom right, okay? On your second row, you line up all your pawns, which are all of the little miniature ones with the little bobbleheads. The rooks, the castle peeps, they go on each corner, and the knights, the horses, they snuggle up to the rooks, okay? And next come your bishops, and then you just remember that your queen goes on the same color as itself. So if you're playing as white, that's the white square, and if you're playing as black, then that's the black square, and then the king goes on the last remaining square. So, pawns here, all lining up on this row, all of these guys. Then you've got your castles, your rooks as they're called, in the corner. Then you've got your knights, your horses, then the bishops. Here's the queen, the white queen on the white square, and then the king goes on the other square. And then if you're playing as black, you've got the black queen, so that goes on the black square, and then the king goes on the other square. Simples! Right, now it's at this point that the overwhelm can start to kick in. But don't go anywhere, because I promise you, yes, it's true, mastering chess is really genuinely hard, but understanding the basic movement and the mechanics really isn't, I promise you. But no refunds if you don't agree, because I can't give you your view back or anything, so shame. All right, listen, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at how all the pieces can move and how they can, what we call, capture enemy pieces, okay? So let's deal with the pawns first of all. These little miniature bobbleheads. Now listen, these guys are your loyal foot soldiers, okay? They're your first line of defense and almost always your first ones to attempt an attack. Now, both the black and the white pieces are staring each other down, all right? They're ready to go to war. They're eyeballing each other. The problem is they're extremely limited in what they can do, which is a shame for them, but great for understanding chess. Now, pawns can only move up the board, okay, meaning away from you, 1 square at a time, except for their very first move from their home square, where they can move 1 or 2 squares. Now, after they've left their home square, they can only move 1 square at a time, and that's it. They have the power to take an opponent's piece, any of them, including the king and the queen, but they can only do so if the enemy piece is on a square ahead of them and diagonal to themselves. It's a bit like a drunk person who's trying to hit someone in front of them and hits their friend instead. Now, if there's a piece directly in front of the pawn, they cannot move until there's a free space. The only other way they can advance is by bopping another piece diagonally ahead of them on the head. So let's see that in action. So I'm going to take my pawn here, my king's pawn it's called because it's in front of the king. Now I can move this to here, I can move it 2 spaces, or I can move it 1 space. But once this pawn has been moved away from its home square, it will only be able to move 1 square at a time ahead of it. So let me give you an example. If I move this pawn here and now it's black's go, I'm going to show you black will do the same thing. I can now only move this pawn to this square. It's the only square it can move to. I'm going to do the same for black. Now we have a choice. Now we have an option. So with this one, with my loyal foot soldier, my king's pawn foot soldier, I can either do the same thing again, and I can move ahead. But because now this piece is at a diagonal to me, I can actually capture black's pawn on the diagonal, the square diagonal to me. So all I need to do is go, and I've captured that pawn. Easy, simples. But I don't have to do that. I don't have to do it. If I wanted to, I can move it forward. And of course, you don't have to move this pawn at all. But this is a really good example showing you how these can move. So I can either move a pawn at the start, I can move it 1 square, or I can move it 2. This one, I can move once, or I can move it 2 squares ahead. And that's how pawns work. Now, behind the 8 strong thick wall of your foot soldier pawns at the front are the juiced up big boys and girls of your proper full-on army. Now, first of all, we've got the rooks, okay, the castles in the corners, and they can move up and down and sideways as many squares as you like, or until they hit an enemy piece. Now, if they hit that enemy, you capture it, and the defeated piece is taken off the board, and you can put it next to you, and you can laugh like an evil genius, or just carry on playing with a stern face. I like to look at it just... But you can do whatever you like. So let me give you an example of how the rooks move in the corners. Let me just get one of them out here. So I'm just going to play and get this rook out. So this rook, like I say, can move up or down or sideways, as many squares as you like, until it's stopped. So I can't move it beyond my pawn here. I can move it as far as this. But then when I play this piece with black, this rook can now, if I wanted to, I could take it all the way to the edge of the board. I could take it to here. I can take it to any of these squares. Or I could take it back home. So it can move up or across on those straight lines. Like I say, if it encounters an enemy piece, I capture it. I could stop here if I wanted to. I could go to here, but if I land on this square, this one with the pawn on it, then I capture that pawn. And that is mine. That pawn is mine. All right, now listen, inside the rooks are the knights, okay? The beautiful looking horses of our world. These guys here. Now, these guys are arguably the most fun pieces to use because they are the only ones that can sort of fly over pieces to get to a space. Now, they move in an L shape, meaning either 1 square next to them and then 2 at a right angle or 2. Anyway, that makes it sound complicated. Let me show you. So this knight here, I can only move it to this square or this square and in an L shape. Now, not necessarily an L shape as an L looks to us, but check it out. So I can move it here or here, meaning 2 forward and then 1 to the left, or 2 forward and then 1 to the right. So I'm going to move this knight and then I'm going to move the black knight over here just so you can see a bit more clearly. So this knight moves in the same movement pattern. So this is moving as what looks to us now like an L shape. So 2 down and 1 to the right, or 2 down and 1 to the left. So I'm going to move that one there. And now once I come back to this knight again, you'll see I have 4 options. So I can do the same thing I did at the start, which was moving up the board twice and then to the left or right. So up the board twice and then to the left or right. But you can see I can also move here and here, which is 1 square and then going left 2, or 1 square and then going right 2. But you'll see that it still makes that kind of L shape. So if you turn your head to the side, if you tilt your head to the right, you'll see that this makes an L on this side. And if you tilt your head to the left, it's like a mirror reflected L. But that's the only way a knight can move. So like I say, it can move over pieces, and it is the only piece that can do that. Every other piece gets stopped by another piece, whether it's your piece or an opponent's piece. But the knight can fly over a piece to get to its completion of its L shape. Now from here, we've got your bishops. Your bishops are inside your knights, and they are the diagonal badasses of the board. So we have the rooks, the castle-looking pieces, and they can move up and down and sideways. The bishops can only move diagonally from the square that they're on. But once again, as many squares as you like until they smash boom into an enemy piece. At which point, again, they can capture it and they can hoard it like an otter with a rock. So check it out. This is the bishop in action. Let's just reset the board again. So I'm going to move this pawn so I can start manipulating the bishops. So if you look, here's one of the bishops. It can only move diagonally from its square. So I'm going to move it to here. I'm going to get black to move here. So now I've got the option of I could go back on the diagonal, I could keep going on this diagonal, or I can take the other diagonal as far as I want, even so far as to take and capture the rook, the enemy castle right in the corner, if I wanted to. So only on the diagonals. Now inside the bishops are our regal hero and heroine, the MVPs of chess, the strong, combative, threatening genius of a queen, and the king. Now the queen, this piece here, this combines the prowess of a bishop and a rook, being able to move sideways, up, down, and on the diagonals as much as she wants. But like the bishop and the rook, she's only brought to a halt by a square that has an enemy piece on it or one of your pieces on it. Now, she is so powerful as both an attacker and a defender, and you want to make sure that you use her very, very wisely, because if you lose her and leave your opponent up by a queen, you are usually in big, big, mega trouble. It's worth remembering that she cannot do the L-shaped thing that the knights can do. Just FYI. All right, an example then of how the queen works. Let's get this queen out. And in fact, I am just going to lose that path there. So you can see here, this queen now, this queen can move sideways. In fact, let's do that. This queen can move sideways. It can go up and down, and it can go on the diagonals. So by far, the most important defensive and offensive piece on the board. Try not to lose her. And this just leaves our king. Now here's the king. The king is basically an overconfident pawn. It can move in any direction, but only one square at a time. It can capture enemy pieces in any of those directions, but you will rarely want to use the king to attack your enemy. Your king staying alive is the only thing that keeps the game alive. So you want to shield and protect him at all costs. At all costs. Now, when you're threatening an opponent's king with a piece, this is called check. And that king must then be taken out of that state of check, either by moving it or blocking the attack path of whatever is threatening that royal highness. Okay, so let me show you a position where the king would be in major, major, major drama. So we're going to move some of the pieces out here, and I'm going to show you what happens when we put the king in check. So I've moved this queen on the diagonal, and as you can see on this diagonal now, the queen can see the king, and that is check. That is what's considered check. And I now, playing as white, will not be able to do anything other than make sure that this king is not in check and not under threat. So I can move the king here. I can move the king here. I could move this pawn forward by one square, and that would block the path. The queen now cannot see that king because this pawn is in the way, so it can't see that, can't play that move. If I take you back here, but without that pawn there, that queen can see the king. So we've got to move either here or here. And if we move here, as you can see, the queen now cannot see that. It's not possible for the queen to see that movement because that would be an illegal queen movement. Has to be on a diagonal or on one of the sideways tracks. Now, a game of chess ends in one of three usual scenarios. One with what we call checkmate. Now, that's when your opponent plays a move that attacks the king whilst also offering no safe haven for the king. You cannot move the king anywhere safe, and all of the attack paths can't be blocked. So this is the end. It's the end of the chess war. You shake hands, you rage quit, you throw your chessboard in the bin, or you just keep calm and carry on. It's your choice. All right, so let me show you an example of check and checkmate and why it's those things. So hopefully you will never, ever, ever have a game as short as this, but maybe you will, and that's kind of part of the learning curve. You know, chess can be an incredibly humiliating and humbling game. I mean, all the time. All the time! All the time, and it's going to make you want to cry and rage, but when it goes well, it's the best thing in the world. But check it out. All right, so we're going to play as white, and check this out. So we move a piece forward. Black decides to move a piece forward. We move another piece out. Black's thinking, yeah, great, I'll move this piece out. Everything's looking good. We're playing chess. 2 moves each. Who knows what could happen? Boom! Boom! And not only is this boom, not only is this check, this is checkmate. And this is why. So, what I've done here is I've brought out the queen on the diagonal. Remember, it can only move diagonally or sideways. And once it's got to here, it's got its king right in its lovely diagonal sight lines. Now, the problem here for the king is twofold. One, there is nowhere that the king can move that remains safe. So, remember, the king can only move 1 square in any direction, but it's blocked in here by this queen, the 2 pawns, and this bishop. The only space the king can move to is here, and that is still right in the sight line of the queen. So the other option we have is to block this path. How can we block this path? And we can't. Nothing can block this path. Remember, the knight can only move on that L shape, so either that way or this way. The rook can only move long ways, so down or to the side, and that's blocked in. This pawn is stopping this rook from actually capturing the queen. And the bishop can only move on the diagonal, which is of no use to blocking these squares. So this is not only check, this is checkmate. This is the end of the game, and white wins. So that is a good example. Don't ever get into this situation. Don't ever do this with your pawns. Don't move this out, because otherwise you are going to fall victim to what is called fool's mate. And you are a fool if you get checkmated like this. Okay, the second usual common way to lose the game is via resignation. So you can resign when you see that all hope is lost. So you've utterly failed to protect your king, and the enemy is at the door, and you know there is no way out for you. Now, FYI, there is rarely an obligation to resign, and actually, I don't really recommend it. There are usually always lessons to learn and things to try by continuing. And there's also the very, very, very real chance that your opponent absolutely fluff-me-oaks, makes a mistake, and gives you a glimmer of hope. It happens all the time, and that's called a blunder. When you make a crazy mistake, it's called a blunder. Number 3 is a draw. Now, when it's genuinely impossible for each player to capture the other person's king, a draw is declared. Now, usually that's down to what's called insufficient material, meaning there aren't enough threatening pieces left for either player to ever actually win. You can actually force a draw through what we call repetition. Now, that's playing the same combination of moves 3 times in a row, and that forces a draw. Now, this might sound stupid, but if an opponent is clearly losing, then forcing a draw is actually a way to get a very, very good result. Now, before I go and wrap this up, I promised you that I'd tell you a pawn can turn into a beautiful butterfly, and you can turn it into literally any other piece apart from another king. You'd always turn it into a queen because it's literally the most powerful piece on the board. If you manage to get one of your pawns, one of your brave foot soldiers in your army, gets all the way to the end of the board, the top of the board, without having been captured, you can turn it into any other piece apart from another king or a pawn. You can't turn it into another pawn. That would be just the most moronic thing ever. So watch this. It's white's turn. I've managed to go all the way through. For some reason, I haven't been captured, and I go boom, and now I have the option to turn it into a queen. a knight, a rook, or a bishop. I choose a queen, and now I have 2 queens on the board. Yeah! Let's go! Right, that'll do for this video. Thank you so much for watching the ultimate noob guide to chess. I hope you've learned something. Let me know in the comments if you have, and look out for some more chess videos coming from me that will detail some openings and some tactics that you can use as an ultimate noob that, again, won't be overwhelming, but can get you to make some progress in this beautiful game. But until the next video, take care, much love, and peace out.